Hey everyone, here's the review for the Unit 6 test that is coming up. So I'm going to work through the problems on the review sheet that you've already received. If you do not have it, you can also check on the website for the answer key or a blank copy for you to print out so that you can have another version for yourself. Okay, so on the first one we have factor completely, and on part A we have 16x to the fifth minus 625 times x. So if I'm looking across here, I've got a greatest common factor of x. So if I take out the x to the front, I will have 16x to the fourth minus 625. And then if I'm looking at this is actually a difference of two perfect squares, a 16x to the fourth minus 625. So I'll leave the x in the front, and I think, okay, what's the square root of 16x to the fourth? Well, that's 4x squared. So I'll put that in the front of each. And then the square root of 625 is 25, so I'll put that second in each binomial. And then I need opposite signs. But am I done? No, I'm not, because now this third term right here, this 4x squared minus 25, that is another difference of perfect squares. So that must be factored as well, because we are factoring completely. So I'll leave the x in the front. I'll leave the 4x squared plus 25. And now this will be factored. So the square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 25 is 5. And then opposite signs. And that is actually my answer right there. I have no more difference of perfect squares. That's it. Okay, so now on to part B. I've got 6x squared plus 11x minus 7. For this one, I'm going to use the slip and slide. So I'm going to take this 6, multiply it times the 7. So I'm going to have x squared plus 11x minus 42. And I think, okay, what multiplies to negative 42 but adds to positive 11? Well, that would be 14 and 3. Positive 14 and negative 3. So since I slipped the 6 over, I also need to slide it back in here. So I'm going to divide each of these by 6. So x plus 14 over 6 reduces to 7 over 3. And then 3 over 6 reduces to 1/2. And to make these a little bit prettier so I don't leave it as a fraction, for this first binomial, because I have a 3 in this fraction, I'm going to multiply both parts by 3, so I'll get 3x plus 7. And in the second one, to get that 2 out of the denominator, I'll multiply both parts by 2, so I get 2x minus 1. And then part C, x cubed minus 5x squared minus 24x. Looking across, I do have a greatest common factor that I need to take out first. So I'll put the x in the front, and that'll give me x squared minus 5x minus 24. And then I have to think, does that factor well? And it sure does. So I'll leave the x in the front. What multiplies to negative 24 but adds to negative 5? That's negative 8 and positive 3. Okay, for the next part, we're going to find the dimensions of the rectangle if the area is, and it gives us, in the first one we have x squared minus 121. So we're finding the dimensions, the length and width, and it gives us the area. So length and width, that's multiplication. So if we have a final product here, the area, since area is the product of length times width, then we want to factor this back out so we have two things being multiplied. On part A, we have x squared minus 121. That is a difference of two perfect squares. So the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 121 is 11. And then I just need opposite signs. So my length would be one of them, and my width would be the other. It doesn't really matter which way you label them, but basically we're just factoring. Okay. B, we have x squared plus 7x minus 18. That factors nicely as well. So what multiplies to negative 18 but adds to positive 7? Well, that's positive 9 and negative 2. Again, one of those can be the length and one of them the width. And then finally, 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. This one, there's not a GCF we can take out. It doesn't, it has the value of a, so we need to factor with that in mind. For this, again, my favorite is to use the slip and slide, so I'm going to move the 2 over here. So I have x squared minus 5x minus 24 now. And what multiplies to negative 24 but adds to negative 5? Well, that's negative 8 and positive 3. So I need to slide the 2 back in here. So we have x minus 4 times x plus 3 halves. But to get rid of my fraction here, I'm going to multiply both parts of the second binomial by 2. So I'll get 2x plus 3. And that's my answer. One of them can be length, one of them width.